Your food isn't trying to kill you, but according to some people, it's definitely whispering government secrets between the corn syrup and the sodium. And trust me, the real nonsense starts after this. 1. A man once confidently explained that baby carrots are actually full-sized carrots shaved down by a secret government machine that removes not just the skin, but also the dangerous memories carrots gain while being grown in the dirt. According to him, farms are essentially carrot brainwashing factories where vegetables are resized like suspects in a witness protection program. He insisted the bright orange color isn't natural either. It's corporate spray tan for produce, meant to make shoppers forget they're buying mutilated root corpses. The best part is how proudly he delivered this theory, like he'd cracked open the vegetable industrial complex with nothing but intuition and a shopping cart. Meanwhile, the rest of the produce aisle continued existing without caring, and absolutely no one found the need to mention that baby carrots are literally just carrots cut smaller. But sure, somewhere in a warehouse, there's apparently a carrot rewrite machine stamping out sanitized vegetable truth. 2. A woman at a grocery store once told a cashier, with the authority of someone revealing national intelligence, that the grill marks on pre-cooked chicken aren't real. Not just processed, but lasered on by the same people who fake moon landing shadows. She insisted the stripes are added by a secret department of culinary cosmetologists, whose job is to make food look like it endured a rugged outdoor lifestyle it never lived. According to her, the chicken never met a grill, never smelled smoke, and barely had the chance to understand it was food before being tattooed with edible stripes like some kind of protein-level Instagram filter. Real chefs? Unnecessary. Just shine a hot stencil at the meat until it develops the illusion of competence. This theory suggests the nation is one power outage away from chicken, reverting to smooth, unbranded slabs, which apparently would expose the entire poultry deception and cause mass panic in the frozen foods aisle. 3. Somewhere in the depths of breakfast paranoia, a guy developed the belief that cereal companies insert emotional conditioning flakes into every box. These are not normal flakes, he claimed. They're micro-engineered crunchy modules designed to make people nostalgic, compliant, and weirdly loyal to brands featuring cartoon animals. He insisted this explains why adults still buy cereal shaped like moons and stars, not because it tastes good, but because the flakes whisper reassuring messages like a breakfast cult recruiter. He even had a hierarchy. Marshmallows are the elite operatives, cornflakes do the daily grunt work, and anything fiber-based is clearly punishment technology. According to his worldview, a bowl of cereal isn't a meal. It's a psychological operation seminar swimming in milk. The rest of us just see breakfast, but to him, each crunchy bite is another chapter in a decades-long agenda to keep the population docile, sugared up, and comfortable with cartoon mascots running the national mood. 4. There's a persistent claim floating around some corners of the internet that shredded cheese contains government dust, designed to prevent overeating by making people subconsciously guilty. Someone decided the anti-caking powder wasn't there to keep the cheese from clumping. No, it was an emotional suppressant specifically formulated to whisper discouraging thoughts like, maybe 6 tacos is enough, and are you sure you need more nachos? The theory positions cheese dust as a psychological traffic officer, directing human impulses with all the subtlety of a disappointed therapist. Apparently, the powder also works as a homing beacon so officials can detect who is hoarding dairy products, because nothing says federal control strategy like tracking rogue bags of cheddar. In reality, anti-caking agents just stop cheese from turning into a sad orange boulder. But sure, let's pretend someone in a lab coat is sitting around perfecting emotional dairy dust to keep society from achieving full quesadilla freedom. 5. One customer at a bakery insisted that sprinkles are actually tracking beads, created by a coalition of phone companies, governments, and maybe a sorcerer or two. His theory was that every Rainbow Jimmy is a tiny edible antenna broadcasting location data, so dessert lovers can be monitored by the people who run the frosting economy. According to him, cupcakes are basically surveillance devices disguised as snacks, and anyone who enjoys colorful toppings is willingly submitting to digital pastry espionage. He even gestured at the donut case like he'd uncovered a sugary conspiracy cell. The idea that someone is tagging citizens with funfetti like it's wildlife management for birthday parties is astonishingly bold. Never mind that sprinkles have all the technological sophistication of a sugar-coated pebble. To him, they're bite-sized satellite dishes. Of course, no shadowy agency is tracking donut consumption. If they were, the first thing they'd discover is that humans are extremely predictable when frosting is involved. 6. A person once proclaimed that sparkling water bubbles aren't carbonation at all. They're nano-orbs of industrial mind steam, left over from factory machinery. He insisted these orbs travel up your nose and into your brain, where they soften your resistance to bland corporate beverages. The bubbles, he claimed, are not harmless fizz, but little ideological balloons that rewrite your taste expectations until drinking plain water starts feeling like a moral failing. This theory paints La Croix not as a beverage, but as a portable brain-conditioning fog machine disguised in pastel cans. Every sip is supposedly a recruitment pledge to lifestyle minimalism. According to him, the bubbles are engineered to rise dramatically in the glass to show off their psychological infiltration skills. Meanwhile, actual carbon dioxide is just rolling its eyes, wishing people would stop crediting it with superpowers. But sure, let's pretend corporate America invented fizzy thoughts for your neural enjoyment. 7. Some people genuinely believe the seeds in watermelons are implanted by fruit bureaucrats who want to train consumers to fear natural produce. According to this theory, real watermelons wouldn't dare contain seeds because nature respects convenience. So the seeds must be added manually by a secret committee whose mission is to frustrate picnics until everyone caves and buys seedless varieties, allegedly the approved kind controlled by shadowy melon engineers. In this worldview, watermelons aren't plants. They're behavior modification devices. The seeds supposedly serve as tiny black warning signs, reminding you how chaotic life becomes when you don't obey produce guidelines. The idea that someone is sitting in a factory poking seeds into watermelon flesh like they're stuffing olives into martini glasses is astonishingly inefficient. But efficiency isn't the point. The point is to create psychological fruit fatigue. Seedless watermelon exists simply because people got tired of eating around edible punctuation marks. No conspiracy required. 8. There's a theory circulating in certain mystical grocery circles claiming that powdered sugar is actually crystallized cloud residue, harvested by aircraft flying through storms. According to believers, powdered sugar isn't sugar at all. It's dehydrated sky fluff scraped off the atmosphere, processed through industrial dream filters, and sold as baking material. These folks argue that's why it feels so soft and clumpy, because it's spiritually exhausted weather. They even insist the reason powdered sugar dissolves instantly on pastries is that it remembers falling as snow and returns to that state out of nostalgia. Meanwhile, sugar manufacturers are out here quietly grinding granules into powder without calling upon the meteorological afterlife. Still, this theory imagines a fleet of airplanes vacuuming the clouds like celestial janitors, sucking up weather debris to stock supermarket shelves. It's poetic, in the way that makes you deeply concerned someone is cooking with ingredients they believe have emotional backstories. 9. A guy at a sandwich shop once declared that mayonnaise is actually corporate fog, stabilized into a spreadable form. His argument was that no natural substance looks like that unless someone trapped atmospheric confusion inside a jar. He accused mayo of being the byproduct of boardroom decisions. Literally, as if executives exhale disappointment into a container until it emulsifies. The texture, he said, feels like the physical manifestation of paperwork. He even claimed the reason people fight about mayo online is because it activates bureaucratic instincts, making everyone respond like they're defending a deeply unimportant policy. The idea suggests mayo isn't food, it's emotional residue from capitalism. Meanwhile, actual mayonnaise ingredients, eggs, oil, vinegar, are somewhere in the corner sighing. But sure, let's pretend the biggest condiment brands are running atmospheric compression chambers to harvest weaponized blandness for sandwiches. That would at least explain why it always looks like it's plotting mediocrity. 10. One particularly imaginative theorist argued that blue raspberry flavoring is tangible evidence of a government cover-up involving a lost berry species. According to this tale, there was once a real blue raspberry plant so delicious, so addictive, it threatened national productivity. Naturally, the government allegedly destroyed the species and replaced it with an artificial substitute that tastes like candy-flavored rebellion. The neon blue color, he claimed, is a distraction meant to distance the flavor from its botanical origins, a culinary witness protection program for fruit. In his view, slushies and sour candies are basically edible historical lies. The truth is that blue raspberry never existed, except as a marketing stunt created because food scientists were bored of red. But in his version, the missing berry is a victim of agricultural censorship. Imagine the level of bureaucracy required to outlaw a fruit because it was too delicious for capitalism to survive. Apparently, we'll never know, unless someone leaks the berry files. 11. A traveler eating gas station snacks once declared that beef jerky is actually repurposed leather scraps soaked in flavor chemicals. He insisted no meat could survive dehydration and still taste like that unless it began its life as a wallet. According to him, every jerky strip is a former belt that retired early and now moonlights as road trip protein. He pointed to the texture, tough, glossy, and suspiciously uniform, as proof that the beef industry has a secret partnership with the accessory industry. In this worldview, cows are just the middlemen between fashion and snacking. The chemicals, he argued, are designed to erase any memory the leather once had of holding up pants. Meanwhile, jerky producers, who actually slice meat and dehydrate it like normal humans, are probably too tired to fight the accusation that their product is basically edible upholstery. Still, the idea of someone chewing through a former handbag while bragging about protein intake is comedic gold. 12. Someone once claimed that canned soup contains temporal preservatives that freeze broth in time, not just in flavor. The theory goes that soup companies discovered a way to trap time itself inside a metal cylinder so that vegetables never age, chicken never questions its purpose, and noodles remain forever suspended in culinary limbo. He argued that opening a can releases a puff of borrowed minutes, which explains the faint metallic smell. Time leakage, in his words. This person earnestly believed canned soup is basically edible time travel, allowing you to experience vegetables harvested during a forgotten era. The logic collapses instantly, but he recited it like he'd personally audited the timeline. In reality, preserving soup involves heat, sealing, and sanitary containers, not chronomancy. But his version suggests every pantry in America contains a row of tiny time capsules just waiting to unleash prehistoric carrots onto your stove, which is somehow both ridiculous and slightly poetic. 13. One shopper firmly believed that grape jelly is not made from grapes, but from synthetic optimism concentrate. According to her, no fruit on earth could produce something that's shiny, bouncy, and emotionally supportive. She insisted the flavor is designed to simulate the exact taste of childhood hope, which is why adults feel irrationally comforted by it. In her world, jelly factories aren't processing produce. They're distilling positive childhood memories into spreadable form, like a therapy session stuck in a jar. The purple color, she argued, is chosen because it looks like the inside of a happy brain, and the texture is engineered to mimic the feeling of reassurance. Real grapes, meanwhile, would love to have a word about their existence. But according to her theory, grape jelly is essentially edible nostalgia, manufactured by people who want toast to make you emotionally vulnerable. Honestly, if that's true, they deserve a marketing award for their work in sandwich psychology. 14. Somewhere online, a video gained traction claiming that microwave popcorn bags contain pop control fibers that decide how many kernels you're allowed to enjoy. The narrator insisted the bag isn't just paper. It's a behavioral regulation device programmed to burn just enough kernels to keep consumers humble. Apparently, popcorn companies fear the consequences of giving people a bag that pops perfectly every time. He argued that the fibers inside the bag generate tiny heat temper tantrums, causing uneven pops to remind the public that convenience comes with suffering. According to this theory, overcooked kernels aren't accidents, they're emotional discipline. Never mind that popping corn is just chaotic physics in a paper sleeve. This idea imagines popcorn as a moral test administered by snack corporations who sit in a dark room deciding exactly how many edible puffs you deserve. Because nothing says corporate control agenda like deciding whether your evening movie bowl should include a few burnt casualties. 15. A conspiracy enthusiast once lectured an entire cafe claiming that tea bags contain herbal truth dampeners, supposedly added to keep people from becoming too philosophical. He explained that loose-leaf tea awakens independent thought, while bagged tea mutes the brain's curiosity receptors. His proof? Bagged tea often tastes weaker, which he interpreted as intellectual sabotage rather than basic reality. The paper bag, he said, filters out not just leaves, but also rebellious ideas. According to him, ancient philosophers never used tea bags because they knew the dangers of beverage censorship. Modern drinkers, meanwhile, are unknowingly steeping themselves in compliance. The actual reason tea bags exist, convenience, apparently isn't dramatic enough. Instead, he imagined beverage companies orchestrating a subtle war on free thinking through damp paper pouches. If tea bags really did suppress critical thought, humanity would probably be a lot more relaxed than it currently is. But sure, let's keep blaming Earl Grey for society's problems. 16. At a holiday party, someone confidently argued that fruitcake isn't food at all. It's seasonal construction material disguised as dessert. According to him, the dense texture and geological weight prove it's used by certain industries as edible packing insulation. The candied fruit bits, he insisted, are actually colored calibration markers that help machines measure density. In his version of reality, fruitcakes aren't baked. They're manufactured in off-season brick factories where engineers wear aprons for plausible deniability. He even claimed the reason fruitcakes last forever is because they're made with industrial-grade shelf stabilizers, typically reserved for building supplies. Meanwhile, holiday bakers everywhere are just trying to make something their relatives won't use as a doorstop. Still, imagining someone receiving a fruitcake and repurposing it as a structural support beam feels disturbingly accurate. If there's any food that could double as both dessert and blunt force tool, fruitcake would be undefeated. 17. There's a belief floating around health forums that pickles glow faintly in the dark because they're charged with electromagnetic brine. According to this theory, the pickling process creates tiny electric currents inside the cucumbers, giving them a low-level aura visible only to people attuned to food energy. These folks treat jars of pickles like biological batteries, insisting the brine contains ions that whisper secrets about the universe. One person even claimed the pickles hum at night if you listen closely, not metaphorically hum, but actually vibrate with cosmic intention. Naturally, none of this holds up under even the smallest amount of science, but that never stopped anyone determined to assign supernatural powers to vegetables. Pickles glow only if someone put them near a light source, and they hum only if the refrigerator is broken. But in their minds, every dill spear is a neon green philosopher radiating enlightenment straight from the condiment shelf. 18. A nutrition-obsessed man once argued that bottled lemon juice isn't made from lemons at all, but from compressed citrus memories extracted during fruit meditation. According to him, actual lemons are too unpredictable. Sometimes they're sour, sometimes they're slightly less sour, and no government would tolerate that level of culinary chaos. So factories, he claimed, gather lemons in silent rooms, play calming elevator music, and harvest the juice by collecting whatever emotions the lemons release under pressure. The yellow color, he insisted, comes from artificial enlightenment added afterward. He said this with the confidence of someone who thinks fruit therapy is a regulated industry. Meanwhile, bottled lemon juice is just lemons plus preservatives. No meditative soul-squeezing required. But it's apparently more exciting to believe your fridge contains a bottle of spiritual concentrate undergoing a constant existential crisis next to the ketchup. 19. One shopper swore that the ridges on peanut butter lids are secret grip sensors, designed to measure how desperate the consumer is for protein. In his theory, the tighter you twist, the more data the company collects about your emotional state during sandwich preparation. He even claimed smooth peanut butter gathers calmer readings than crunchy because the bop of peanuts interferes with sensor accuracy. According to this grand analysis, peanut butter manufacturers aren't selling a spread. They're running a nationwide anxiety study using jars as stress gauges. The reality, of course, is that the ridges exist so people can open the jar without losing their dignity, but apparently practicality is too boring. Instead, this theory imagines an entire database of peanut-based personality profiles determining who gets coupons and who gets targeted ads for calming teas. Even the peanut butter is judging you now. Truly a bleak culinary future. 20. Someone once insisted that instant ramen flavor packets are actually dehydrated personality templates. His argument was that no spice blend on Earth should have that much emotional impact unless it came from a higher philosophical authority. He said the packets are infused with archetype seasonings, engineered to transform you into whatever the flavor represents. Chicken flavor for cowardice, beef flavor for misguided masculinity, shrimp flavor for people who scream at customer service. According to him, every bowl is a personality quiz disguised as dinner. The noodles themselves, he claimed, are neutral character strings that absorb whatever identity the flavor packet imposes. Meanwhile, ramen companies are out here just trying to make affordable meals for broke people, not co-writing your inner monologue with powdered soup dust. Still, imagining someone slurping noodles while muttering, "I guess I'm beef now," is a reminder that some theories should come with a free therapist. 21. A woman at a cafe loudly declared that whipped cream isn't dairy, it's air with self-esteem issues. She claimed the topping exists purely to give hot beverages a false sense of glamour, like a caffeinated prom queen needing validation from foam. According to her, the reason whipped cream melts is not heat but embarrassment, because it realizes it's just inflated milk pretending to be fancy. The theory got weirder when she insisted the gas used to whip it is actually harvested from unused balloon animals, which she described as the saddest of noble gases. In reality, whipped cream is exactly what it says it is, but her version suggests every slice of pie is wearing a dairy-based tiara, hoping nobody notices it collapses under pressure. If whipped cream truly had self-worth problems, it would at least demand a better place in the food pyramid. 22. There's a theory floating around farmers markets that honey is basically bee gossip turned into syrup. One vendor explained with absolute delight that bees don't make honey from nectar. They make it from the spoken drama of the hive. According to him, the sweetness comes from positive gossip. The darker varieties come from spicy secrets, and raw honey is just unfiltered scandal straight from bee society. He even suggested that different floral sources simply affect the tone of the conversation. Meanwhile, actual bees are way too busy not dying to run a buzzing tabloid industry. Honey is just concentrated flower juice with a great PR team, but imagining jars filled with liquefied bee chatter at least adds new depth to breakfast. And if any species deserves a break from conspiracy theories, it's the one literally keeping the entire food supply alive without stopping to argue about it. 23. A man at a chain restaurant claimed that mozzarella sticks are actually cheese fossils, dug up from ancient dairy deposits. He argued that real mozzarella would never hold that shape unless it had been preserved underground for centuries. When asked why the cheese melts, he said it's because the frying process awakens the spirits of prehistoric cows, causing the fossil to temporarily soften before returning to its natural state of molten regret. According to him, archaeologists frequently stumble across mozzarella deposits, but keep the discoveries secret to avoid artifact inflation. Meanwhile, mozzarella sticks are obviously modern cheese battered and fried, not paleontological findings. But his version does explain why eating too many feels like uncovering a lost civilization inside your stomach, one that instantly regrets being rediscovered. If dairy ever evolves the ability to fossilize, mozzarella sticks will finally have the respect their taste and consequences deserve. 24. A customer once insisted that bottled smoothies are made from fruit that failed its beauty exam. The theory goes that perfectly attractive fruit becomes produce aisle royalty, while the cosmetically challenged ones get blended into personality-obscuring liquid. He argued that smoothies are basically witness protection programs for ugly strawberries, underperforming bananas, and blueberries with questionable symmetry. According to him, companies hide the identities of these produce rejects by drowning them in tropical flavors and promising health benefits that sound like New Year's resolutions rewritten by marketers. Never mind that smoothies are just another way to consume fruit without chewing. His theory frames every bottle as a confessional chamber for fruits seeking redemption. Honestly, if fruit really had to meet beauty standards, the entire global food supply would collapse. But it's comforting to think that blending creates a safe space for fruits who never fit the aesthetic vibe of influencer-approved acai bowls. 25. A self-proclaimed health guru once explained that ketchup contains archived tomato emotions from produce that experienced too much sunlight. According to him, overexposed tomatoes absorb emotional radiation that gets released only when crushed into sauce. The tanginess, he said, is the tomato's cry for help. The sweetness is its acceptance of fate. He claimed ketchup companies intentionally select the most emotionally unstable tomatoes because they create the most flavorful psychological profile. This, he argued, is why ketchup is universally beloved. It's the taste of vegetables working through their issues. Meanwhile, ketchup is made of tomatoes, sugar, vinegar, and spices, not emotional residue. But imagining every bottle as a therapy transcript for sunburned tomatoes does give new meaning to the phrase comfort food. If anything, the real breakdown happens when someone tries to use ketchup on pasta or eggs, but that's a separate crisis entirely. 26. A conspiracy lover once declared that gummy bears aren't candy, they're failed cloning experiments. He said each color represents a different attempt to create edible miniature livestock for the future, but the creatures came out too adorable and too chewy, so the project was scrapped and sold as snacks. According to him, the shape is no coincidence. It's the default organism template scientists use before customizing features. He insisted the bounce comes from leftover genetic memory, like the gummies are trying to jog away from ethical concerns. Meanwhile, real gummy bears are made from gelatin, sugar, and food dye. No secret genetics lab involved. Still, the idea of biting into a fruity, defective prototype for edible pets is so bizarre, it almost justifies the weird, translucent quality gummy bears have. If this theory were true, the world would have abandoned science long ago in favor of eating its mistakes. 27. One man claimed that maple syrup isn't sap, it's arboreal caffeine, a stimulant trees produce when stressed by early spring. According to him, tapping a tree is essentially interrupting its morning routine and siphoning off its liquid energy before it can fully wake up. He argued this is why syrup tastes so intense. It's the concentrated panic of a maple realizing winter is over and taxes are due. He even suggested trees get cranky if tapped too early, causing darker, moodier syrups. Actual syrup production involves collecting sap and boiling it down, but sure. Let's pretend every pancake breakfast is powered by stolen tree adrenaline. If that were true, forests would have unionized by now and demanded fair compensation for emotional labor. Instead, the only ones panicking are the people who realize they bought pancake syrup instead of real maple and must now question every decision they've made since childhood. 28. Someone once announced that salt is solidified ocean drama. The theory claims the ocean vents its frustrations through evaporation, leaving behind crystallized mood fragments we sprinkle on food. He insisted different salts capture different emotional tones. Table salt is everyday irritation, sea salt is existential dread, and Himalayan salt is the spiritual exhaustion of mountains that didn't sign up for this. He explained this with a straight face, as if seasoning food required interpreting the emotional weather patterns of water bodies. In reality, salt forms through evaporation, mining, and geological processes, none of which involve ocean gossip. But believing your French fries are dusted with crystallized maritime angst does add a certain poetic flair. If oceans truly expressed feelings through salt, every restaurant table would double as a therapy session for aquatic depression, and chefs would need degrees in hydropsychology just to finish a plate of eggs. 29. A woman at an organic grocery store explained that granola clusters form when oats develop strong friendships. She insisted the clumps aren't caused by honey or baking, but by cereal ingredients bonding emotionally under pressure. The bigger the cluster, she said, the deeper the connection. In her worldview, eating granola is essentially breaking up wholesome oat relationships for your own snacking pleasure. She even claimed the raisins act as community elders, keeping the oats grounded. Meanwhile, actual granola clumps because sugar and heat glue the ingredients together. But that was apparently too cold and scientific for her inner poet. Her version makes every handful feel like a betrayal of oat solidarity, with each crunch echoing the sound of dissolving trust. If oats truly had emotional attachment issues, breakfast aisles would be full of therapy brochures and granola bars would come with disclaimers about fracture-related heartbreak. 30. A cafe regular insisted that iced coffee tastes different because cold temperatures activate the bean's defensive instincts. According to him, coffee beans are meant to be brewed hot, and serving them cold triggers chemical messages that make the drink taste passive-aggressive. He described iced coffee as a beverage holding a grudge, explaining the sharper flavor notes as subtle resentment. He even suggested baristas must emotionally negotiate with beans to convince them to chill out. Meanwhile, the real reason iced coffee tastes different is extraction chemistry. But that doesn't involve caffeinated warfare. If beans truly got offended by cold water, every refrigerator in America would be a battleground of moody produce. Still, imagining iced coffee as a bitter X airing grievances into your cup feels eerily accurate, especially if you've ever relied on it to survive before 10 a.m. 31. Somewhere online, a video claimed that instant pudding is actually shape memory dessert, a substance that remembers being a solid and desperately tries to reassemble itself when mixed with milk. The narrator explained the thickening process as a pudding identity crisis, where powder particles reunite like long-lost relatives at a family reunion hosted in your mixing bowl. This theory insists pudding doesn't set. It reconciles. According to the creator, the jiggle is an emotional tremor, the dessert's attempt to hold itself together while accepting its new form. Meanwhile, instant pudding works because starch absorbs liquid and thickens. Zero psychology involved. But imagining pudding as a dessert reenacting its ancestral history does add drama to an otherwise simple recipe. If pudding truly had memory, manufacturers would be legally required to offer counseling to boxes nearing expiration. But alas, it's just powder in need of hydration, not closure. 32. A man once ranted that bagged salad contains lettuce calibrated for compliance. In his theory, the leaves are cut into specific shapes that make people feel productive for eating greens, even if their life choices remain catastrophic. He argued the pre-washing is part of a behavioral reinforcement loop, teaching consumers they can outsource responsibility to leafy vegetables. The worst part, he said, is the included dressing packets. Liquid obedience, as he described them, engineered to make you accept mediocrity disguised as convenience. Meanwhile, bagged salad exists because people get tired of chopping lettuce and pretending it matters. But according to him, the lettuce is watching your self-improvement journey and silently judging your dressing ratio. If that were true, spinach would have filed a restraining order against humanity years ago. Yet here we are, still shaking bags like they're maracas filled with disappointment. 33. A diner at a pancake house claimed powdered sugar is just flour that learned confidence. He said the only difference between the two is psychological development, with powdered sugar being the enlightened version that finally achieved inner sweetness. According to him, the fine texture is proof of spiritual advancement. Particles that have ascended beyond the gritty self-doubt of flour. He even claimed sifting the sugar awakens its potential, as if baking equipment doubles as a meditation tool. Meanwhile, powdered sugar is literally just sugar ground into powder and mixed with anti-caking starch. But his theory presents it like a self-help success story. If sugar truly had emotional states, pastries would be motivational speakers, and cinnamon rolls would have international book deals. Still, imagining powdered sugar as the confident older sibling of flour is the kind of ridiculous optimism baked goods probably deserve. 34. Someone once argued that corn chips are triangular by design because the shape funnels flavor directly into your decision-making centers. He claimed the pointed edges act like edible arrows guiding your impulses towards salt-based loyalty. According to him, the crunch is not texture, but behavioral punctuation, instructing your brain to pay attention with each bite. He even suggested round chips were discontinued in many places because they were too democratic and didn't influence choices strongly enough. In reality, corn chips are shaped for production efficiency and dipping logistics, not psychological warfare. But his version imagines the snack aisle as a battlefield where nacho triangles hold the strategic high ground. If tortilla chips truly dictated human behavior, guacamole sales would be considered geopolitical data. For now, they remain delicious, salty geometry. Geometry that apparently has more influence over some people's worldview than math class ever did. 35. A guy once insisted that artificial sweeteners are actually synthetic politeness molecules, created to trick your taste buds into thinking they were treated nicely. According to him, they're not sweet at all. They just activate the part of your brain that responds to being complimented, which is why diet soda makes some people feel briefly optimistic before reality reasserts itself. He argued that companies engineered these chemicals to simulate the emotional experience of being told, "Hey, you're doing great," without having to provide any actual nutritional value. His proof? The aftertaste, which he described as the flavor of forced positivity wearing off. Meanwhile, the real reason artificial sweeteners taste weird is complex chemistry, not emotional deception. Still, it's darkly poetic to imagine someone tossing back a zero-calorie soda, hoping the artificial kindness molecules will temporarily distract them from the existential horror of counting calories. If politeness ever becomes edible, humanity will absolutely overdose. 36. A woman at a Mexican restaurant insisted tortilla shells were designed with listening ports that allow the universe to eavesdrop on your dinner decisions. According to her, the small bubbles and air pockets aren't natural. They're cosmic microphones installed to monitor whether you choose steak, chicken, or moral. Failure. She argued that's why tacos crack when overfilled. It's the universe expressing disappointment, not physics. She even claimed soft tortillas are more emotionally supportive, which supposedly explains their flexibility. In reality, tortillas puff because heat exists, but we're apparently supposed to believe the cosmos outsourced surveillance to flatbread. If the universe truly wanted to monitor human behavior, there are far more incriminating moments than someone stuffing a taco like they're auditioning for a structural engineering disaster. But no, according to her, tortillas are high-ranking agents in the carbohydrate intelligence network, dutifully reporting your salsa choices to whoever's listening. 37. One office worker claimed that flavored sparkling water is carbonated prophecy that reveals a person's destiny based on which flavor they drink. Lemon means you'll make impulsive decisions, grapefruit indicates chaotic energy, and mango supposedly predicts romantic disappointment caused by scheduling conflicts. He said the bubbles serve as destiny carriers, subtly vibrating your future into place with each sip, like a fizz-based tarot reading. His coworkers humored him until he announced that berry flavors produce unpredictable outcomes, at which point they quietly removed him from the office snack rotation. Meanwhile, flavored sparkling water is just CO2 and natural flavor extracts, no destiny included. But imagining someone using La Croix as a horoscope is peak modern absurdity. If a person's fate truly hinged on sparkling water, supermarkets would double as fortune-telling hubs, and beverage aisles would require disclaimers like side effects may include vague feelings of purpose. Unfortunately, all sparkling water really predicts is dehydration and disappointment. 38. Someone tried to explain that corn syrup isn't a sweetener, it's liquid obedience, developed to keep consumers malleable while shopping. According to him, the syrup coats your insides with a thin film of compliance, making you more susceptible to marketing slogans, supermarket layouts, and the general human weakness for buying cereal you don't need. He argued that's why so many processed foods contain it, not because it's cheap, but because it pacifies the digestive tract, which allegedly sends signals to the brain saying things like, yes, buy more snacks, you deserve comfort. Real corn syrup is just glucose, but this theory imagines it as a sort of edible hypnosis syrup. If that were true, anyone who's ever eaten a candy bar would be too polite to argue about anything. Yet people still fight over parking spaces like feral seagulls. So much for syrup-induced docility. 39. A conspiracy collector once decided that chocolate chips are actually memory anchors designed to keep people loyal to baked goods. He said the chips act like flavor bookmarks for nostalgia, storing emotional imprints every time someone eats a cookie. According to him, this is why people keep coming back to chocolate desserts after swearing they'll cut sugar. The chips are replaying encoded happy moments like edible flashbacks. He even suggested different chip shapes produce different memories, which is the kind of theory that sounds suspiciously like a marketing pitch from someone who spent too much time smelling cookie dough. Meanwhile, chocolate chips exist because bakers needed a way to add chocolate that didn't melt instantly, not because someone wanted to create food-based emotional architecture. Still, the idea that every chip is a tiny USB drive for nostalgia might explain why eating a cookie sometimes feels like reconnecting with your inner child or your inner sugar addict. 40. A man in an airport lounge insisted pretzel salt is residual crystal anxiety, harvested from stressed workers in pretzel factories. According to him, the saltiness is actually the mineralized essence of frustration, captured through advanced dehydration chambers for emotional vapors. He claimed this is why pretzels taste different at airports, because the stress levels are higher, producing more intense crystals. He even suggested that unsalted pretzels exist because workers occasionally achieve inner peace. Meanwhile, pretzel salt is just salt. But imagining factories collecting emotional vapors for seasoning is the kind of absurdity that would at least justify the price of airport snacks. If stress could be turned into a spice, every workplace cafeteria would be Michelin-starred. Instead, pretzels remain humble twisted bread with aggressive sodium content, not crystallized employee burnout sold for $6 next to a boarding gate. 41. A self-proclaimed foodie argued that broth cubes are compressed culinary lies, allegedly formed by squishing all the disappointment chefs feel when customers demand modifications. He said each cube contains the concentrated emotional debris of every "can I get that without onions?" ever uttered in a restaurant. When the cube dissolves, he explained, it releases these memories into the pot, producing that strangely familiar hint of despair. According to him, that's why broth cube soup always tastes like someone is trying their best under difficult circumstances. Meanwhile, broth cubes are just dehydrated stock with salt. But sure, let's pretend kitchens are compressing customer frustrations into bouillon-based therapy bombs. If emotional compression were this easy, therapists would hand out soup cubes instead of advice. But until then, broth remains just broth, not the culinary equivalent of a tear-soaked diary. 42. A woman online proposed that cinnamon rolls are psychological bribery pastries engineered to override human decision-making. She claimed the swirl pattern hypnotizes the brain into forgetting responsibilities, which is why people buy them despite knowing they're essentially frosting-wrapped regret. The smell, she said, is a weaponized form of comfort designed to destabilize productivity on site. According to her, bakeries release this aroma deliberately into public areas to lure citizens into carb debt. Meanwhile, cinnamon rolls smell amazing because sugar and butter exist. No hypnotic warfare required. Still, the idea that a pastry could hijack someone's moral compass feels extremely on-brand for humanity. Plenty of people have canceled plans because of something warm and sticky that came out of an oven. If pastries truly wielded this much power, society would crumble under a frosting-scented coup within days. 43. A guy once claimed that hot sauce is made spicy not by peppers, but by distilled volcanic ambition. He said the heat you feel isn't chemical. It's the competitive energy of magma trying to prove it belongs in the culinary world. According to him, this explains why some hot sauces melt the lining of your sanity. The lava is simply overachieving. He insisted that different Scoville levels correspond to the ambition levels of various volcanic vents, meaning mild sauce comes from timid lava, and ghost pepper sauce comes from magma experiencing a midlife crisis. Actual hot sauce is just capsaicin, but imagining geological competition dripping onto tacos does add an element of grandeur. If ambition were this transferable, humans would chug chili sauce before job interviews instead of coffee. Unfortunately, most people can't handle ambition in liquid fire form. 44. Someone once explained that raisins aren't dried grapes. They're grapes that witnessed too much, shriveled by the emotional trauma of wine production. He believed grapes chosen for wine undergo intense scrutiny, and the rejects become raisins because the disappointment ages them instantly. He pointed to the wrinkled texture as evidence of their broken spirits and the taste as the lingering bitterness of unmet expectations. According to him, every raisin is a cautionary tale about ambition, which is a lot of pressure to put on something used mostly in trail mix. Meanwhile, raisins dry out because of dehydration, not existential despair, but imagining grapes shriveling out of emotional exhaustion does explain why oatmeal cookies become philosophical tragedies the moment raisins appear. If fruit truly processed disappointment this dramatically, orchards would require on-site counseling. 45. A health blogger claimed vinegar is actually liquid consequence, created by allowing alcohol to remember everything it did wrong. According to him, vinegar forms when a beverage becomes self-aware and develops guilt so intense it chemically transforms. The sourness, he said, is remorse. The sharp smell is embarrassment, and the cleaning power is the solvent effect of shame. He even argued that balsamic vinegar tastes sweeter because some regrets age better than others. Meanwhile, vinegar is just fermented ethanol oxidized by bacteria, but his version paints it as a guilty beverage trying to fix its personality. If vinegar truly embodied consequence, every salad dressing would be a morality lecture. Humanity's capacity for self-inflicted chemical shame suggests this is the closest food has ever come to emotional allegory. 46. A guy at a barbecue insisted grill marks are cosmetic branding. not from grills, but from culinary tattoo artists hired by the food industry. He claimed the marks are airbrushed on using edible ink to make people feel like their meat has lived a hard, honest life of flame-kissed authenticity. According to him, real grills can't make parallel lines because fire is chaotic, which is perhaps the most aggressively confident misunderstanding of physics ever uttered. He argued that grill marks are part of a social conditioning campaign to make people trust food that looks like it has a backstory. Actual grill marks come from hot metal touching meat, very basic, but this theory imagines a warehouse of artists applying smoky eyeliner to chicken breasts like they're prepping for a runway show. Honestly, it would explain a lot about restaurant prices. 47. A woman in a snack aisle insisted that cheese puffs are just dehydrated optimism, inflated with hot air until they resemble edible daydreams. She argued the orange dust is the physical form of misplaced confidence, which is why it sticks to everything, because optimism is clingy. She said the puffs dissolve instantly in your mouth because hope can't handle moisture. Meanwhile, cheese puffs are cornmeal, cheese powder, and air, but her version makes them sound like crunchy motivational posters. If optimism truly came in bright orange form, therapy offices would hand out puffs instead of pamphlets, and self-help seminars would be catered by snack brands. Sadly, they remain what they've always been, deliciously hollow reminders that humans will eat almost anything if it's crunchy and neon. 48. A self-described gourmet insisted energy drinks are carbonated panic, created by bottling the emotional output of college students during finals week. According to him, the ingredients aren't stimulants, but condensed anxiety waves harvested from libraries at 3 a.m. This is why energy drinks make people jittery. You're consuming raw academic distress. He claimed flavors like Ultra Sunrise and Atomic Blast are simply marketing attempts to hide the beverage's true emotional origin. In reality, the caffeine, taurine, and sugar do exactly what science says they do. But his theory implies companies are running emotional distilleries behind university dumpsters. It does fit the vibe, though. Anyone who's ever tasted one knows it feels suspiciously like drinking weaponized stress. If panic were truly this profitable, colleges would have full-scale bottling plants attached to their tutoring centers. 49. Someone once explained that marshmallows are pillow prototypes rejected for being too emotionally sensitive. He argued that the squishiness isn't texture, it's fragility, and the reason they melt in hot chocolate is that they can't handle confrontation. According to him, marshmallows were originally developed to be ultra-soft bedding material until researchers realized they dissolved under pressure, cried in hot environments, and generally behaved like delicate sugar snowflakes. After failing the resilience test, they were repurposed for s'mores, where expectations are lower and nobody demands emotional stability. Meanwhile, marshmallows are whipped sugar stabilized with gelatin, but imagining them as failed bedding prototypes does explain why eating them always feels vaguely unearned. If pillows behaved like marshmallows, hotels would be crime scenes. 50. A man insisted canned tuna is actually ocean bureaucracy, formed when fish swim into underwater administrative zones and get processed into paperwork. He argued the flaky texture resembles shredded documents, and the briny smell is the stench of maritime red tape. According to him, tuna isn't caught. It's filed, stamped, and exported like aquatic paperwork gone rogue. He even claimed chunk-light tuna comes from lower-level fish involved in clerical tasks, while solid white comes from management-grade tuna. Real tuna is, of course, fish, but his worldview imagines the ocean as one giant HR department where swimming too close to the wrong coral reef results in involuntary conversion into lunch. Honestly, if oceans truly ran on bureaucracy, dolphins would have unionized decades ago and demanded overtime pay. 51. And finally, the crowning jewel of misinformed cuisine. One man insisted water, plain ordinary water, is actually government flavorless juice, designed to keep people from discovering what hydration is supposed to taste like. According to him, natural water has a flavor so powerful it would ignite human potential. So officials dilute it with flavorlessness before piping it into homes. He claimed this is why water bottles list ingredients, because they're hiding the real stuff somewhere else. He even argued that ice is water in emotional lockdown, refusing to speak until it melts. Meanwhile, water is the most basic substance on Earth, but but his version suggests civilization is built on suppressing humanity's access to premium hydration. As a grand finale, it's perfect. The dumbest conspiracy of all, believing the universe's most essential liquid is some kind of censored beverage holding back our greatness like a silent, transparent superfood. And there you have it, an entire buffet of food-based madness proving humans will believe absolutely anything except the truth on the label. So pick your favorite disaster in the comments. Tell me what culinary conspiracy I missed. And if you enjoyed the chaos, hit like and subscribe before someone accuses your snack drawer of espionage.